Welcome to Christopher George, the solution series. I'm the man with a plan. Not left, not right, not red or blue. Oh, oh, this is about what's right. Oh, oh, and what we do, Harlot integrity driven. Standing for this land, real leadership for all America. No parties, no games, no smoke, no spin. Real talk, real vision. Let's begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Christopher George, the Solution Series. Today's episode I call The Dying of Thirst on a Water Planet. I'll break this exciting new vision down step by step, outlining each initiative, clarifying who fits where, defining the responsibilities behind every piece, and showing how this bold new structure can begin coming to life in the real world. What you're seeing is more than a powerful image. It's the framework of something new. As promised, no speeches, no slogans, just a plan and a vision. To everyone tuning in for the first time, welcome and thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me a piece of your time, your attention, and your willingness to hear something different. You know, that means a lot to me. And to my returning listeners, welcome back. By now, you already know you're more than just an audience to me, your family, and I'm grateful we're still building together. You know, I'm not interested in, 1,000 fans that don't pay attention to what I'm doing. I need people that are interested in what I'm doing because what I'm trying to do is change our world. You know, we have to change it if we want to live in a better world, and it has to come from us. But before we get into today's discussion, I want to talk about a few things that I normally talk about before I get into every for you coming in for the first time. What I get into every time I talk, I have a podcast. I like to set expectations. And if you heard this before, like I said, this would be a good time. You can go grab a cup of coffee right now because it's the same thing I say every time before I start my content, my podcast. Because, this opening matters to me because it explains how I approach leadership solutions in this platform. And I think that's important for people to understand. I think anybody that's going to do something publicly needs to explain where they're coming from and be honest about it, to tell you the truth. And for me, leadership isn't just talking. Leadership isn't just pointing out what's wrong. It's about, it's coming prepared with a plan, and the courage to talk about it openly, good or bad. The plan I bring isn't rigid. It's strong enough to move us forward, and it's flexible enough to improve through focused conversation. Because the best plan will always be the one shaped by the most thoughtful input. And that's the expectation here. And remember, people, there's no plan right now that I can see of. I see a lot of drama about a bunch of old plans that were enacted, 50 years ago. But where are the new plans, people? This place is for discussion, but discussion with purpose. If you engage, be direct, be respectful, focus your energy on the plan. If you see a flaw, bring a fix. If you have a what if, bring a solution with it. Noise doesn't move us forward. Thoughtful contribution does. This podcast is about America, but it's not limited to America because what I'm finding out is that we're a closer knit world than we've ever been. The world is connected now. Many of the solutions discussed here can be applied anywhere people are working to build stability, dignity, and opportunity. My goal is to help America lead again, not by force, but by example, so others can adapt what works for their own communities. And let me be clear about something I believe deeply. I believe there's always a nugget of truth and experience and insight. In every person, there's something valuable, something learned, something earned, something seen from a perspective no one else has. That's why I welcome everyone to the table, because without you, there's no us. Without shared experience, there's no progress. But with that welcome comes responsibility. Those insights and experiences that you bring, I need them to come ready to build, not tear down. To strengthen ideas, not sabotage them. To move us closer to solutions, not deeper into division. Our tools today are more powerful than they've ever been. Our ability to build, but also our ability to destroy. But I believe that means our responsibility is to do better, to think deeper, to lead smarter, and to work towards peace that works for everyone, not just a few. This is about evolution. Evolution as a country, evolution as a people, evolution as a world. And that's the expectation. That's the standard. And don't confuse things here, guys. I'm a soldier. I know what war looks like, and I know what a world of war looks like. So I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that doesn't happen. So don't confuse this with being soft or whatever you want to label this as. The only label this needs to be understood as is for the people, by the people, to get the people moving. That's it. Now let's get to work. Close your eyes for a moment. Now picture America 10 years from now. The scientists were right. The engineers were right. The warnings were right. Not because anyone wanted them to be, but because we chose to keep reacting instead of preparing. Another wildfire season has begun. Only now entire regions expect to burn. Another hurricane is forming. Only now entire communities expect to flood. Another heat wave arrives. Only now our elderly wonder if the power will stay on long enough to survive it. Parents check the air quality before letting their children play outside. Farmers pray for rain instead of planning for harvest. Families pack photographs instead of suitcases because another evacuation order has arrived. Our pets, our livestock, our wildlife struggle to survive in landscapes that no longer resemble the places we once called home. Insurance has become a luxury. Fresh water has become political. Electricity has become uncertain. Hope has become conditional. Meanwhile, the arguments continue. The headlines change. The elections come and go. The blame moves from one party to another. But the fires don't care. The floods don't care. The droughts don't care. Nature doesn't negotiate. It simply responds to whether we planned or whether we didn't. And here's the tragedy. None of this catches us by surprise anymore. 10 years ago, we were warned that rising temperatures will fuel stronger heat waves, heavier rainfall in some regions, longer droughts in others, rising seas, shrinking snowpacks, and more destructive weather. Today, those warnings are no longer forecasts, they're headlines. Scientists continue to project these trends will intensify through the remainder of this decade if we continue our current path. So let me start with a simple truth. Water in America is no longer a California problem. It isn't a Texas problem. It isn't a Florida problem. It's an American infrastructure problem. And until we stop treating water as a collection of regional emergencies and start treating it as one national system, we will continue paying for disasters that could have been engineered out of our future. Because what you're about to hear isn't another complaint. It's a blueprint. The future. Now imagine standing on the shoreline 20 years from now. Instead of looking out across an empty horizon, you see something completely different. Several miles offshore stands a new kind of structure. Not another oil platform, not another industrial complex built to do one job. What you see is a living system, one designed to produce fresh water, generate renewable energy, grow food, restore marine ecosystems, support scientific research, strengthen coastal resilience, and prepare future generations for challenges we already know are coming. It isn't built around corporate profit. It isn't built around politics. It's built around one simple question. How can one investment create the greatest benefit for the greatest number of people? That's the vision I want to share with you today. Today's episode is called Dying of Thirst on a Water Planet. I chose that title because I wanted to make you stop and think. How can we live on a planet where over 70% of its surface is covered by water? Yet one of the greatest challenges facing humanity is finding enough usable fresh water. That isn't because we're running out of water. It's because we spent generations looking at water the wrong way. We've depended on rivers, lakes, reservoirs, underground aquifers, rainfall. When drought comes, we conserve. When reservoirs get low, we impose restrictions. When another crisis arises, we react again. We've become very good at managing shortages. What we fail to do is build on abundance. Instead of asking, how do we stretch what's left? Maybe it's time we started asking a different question. Why aren't we building new fresh water? The question became the foundation of everything you're about to see. Before I show you my vision and walk you through the image you're looking at, I think it's important to step back for a moment and look at what history has been trying to teach us. These aren't new problems. They're problems we've watched grow year after year while responding to them one crisis at a time. We have parts of this country underwater from catastrophic flooding, while other regions are literally drying up from prolonged drought. We know the imbalance exists. We've watched it happen. Yet beyond asking people to conserve more water or building another reservoir, where's the long-term plan? Where is the national strategy to move water where we have too much to where we desperately need it? That's the question that led me to this vision. So let me begin with what California, Texas, and Florida have already been trying to teach us. California didn't just start burning. California ran out of margin. For decades, the West relied on shrinking snowpack, overdrafted aquifers, aging reservoirs, fire suppression without long-term water strategy. Then the system broke. Paradise, California, 2018. A town erased in hours. 85 people dead. Firefighters overwhelmed not by flame, but by water access. Then came 2020, the largest fire season in state history. 2021, megafires visible from space. 2022, 2023, whiplash flooding after drought, overwhelming the same broken system. California didn't fail because of fire. California fell because water wasn't where it needed to be, when it needed to be there. Fire is the system. Water mismanagement is the disease. Texas, flooding as a planning failure. Texas tells the opposite story and the same lesson. Too much water, too fast, nowhere to send it. Then, somehow, not enough water where people actually need it. That is the madness of Texas right now. Hurricane Harvey in 2017 dropped more than 50 inches of rain in some areas. Entire neighborhoods went underwater, billions in damage. But most of that water had no national outlet, no inland transfer system, no storage strategy. It sat, spread, and drowned communities. Then came the July 22, 2025 Hill Country floods. At Camp Mystic, 25 campers and 2 counselors died, part of a wider flood disaster that killed at least 136 people. Investigations found major emergency preparedness failures, including inadequate evacuation, planning, and staff training. This is where I have to ask plainly. If we say we're supposed to protect our children, then what are we doing? Because floods are not new to Texas. Flash flooding is not new to the Hill Country. The danger was not imaginary. The failure was preparation. And while Texas drowns in one season, it dries out in another. State water planning warns that under severe drought conditions, Texas could face a 6.9 million acre-foot annual shortage by 2070 if recommended strategies aren't implemented. Groundwater availability is also projected to decline with major pressure on the Ogallala and Edwards Trinity aquifers. So let's be honest. Texas is not just facing a flood problem. Texas is facing a water management problem. Too much water destroys one part of the state. Too little water threatens another. Floodwaters rush to the Gulf while communities inland worry about reservoirs, groundwater, and long-term future of their water supply. The water isn't disappearing. It's going to the wrong place. Yes, Texas has invested in reservoirs, conservation, groundwater management, desalination research, and regional water planning. Those are important steps, but they're still largely individual projects designed to solve individual problems. They're not part of one integrated system. And that's the question I keep coming back to. Why are we still thinking about water one country, one county, one city, or one project at a time? When water doesn't respect county lines or state borders, Texas has something many parts of America don't. It has a coastline stretching hundreds of miles along one of the largest bodies of water on earth. It has ports, it has shipbuilding expertise, it has energy workforce, it has industrial capability, it has universities, it has engineers, it has one of the strongest manufacturing bases in the country. So why are we still acting as though the Gulf is simply where floodwater goes to disappear? Why aren't we looking offshore? Why aren't we asking whether the Gulf itself could become part of the solution? What if that coastline wasn't just a boundary? What if it became America's front door to freshwater production, energy, generation, flood management, and a new national water movement corridor? Imagine harvesting fresh water from the Gulf before drought forces restriction. Imagine moving water inland instead of waiting for reservoirs to fail. Imagine using the same infrastructure to generate clean energy, strengthen agriculture, creates thousands of skilled jobs, and build protected transportation corridors that serve the nation for generations. That's the difference between reacting to disaster and engineering resilience. Because Texas doesn't need another temporary fix. Texas needs infrastructure that works whether it's flooding or whether it's dry. And if we're willing to think differently, Texas isn't just one of the states with the biggest water problems. It could become one of the states that helps demonstrate one of the biggest water solutions. Florida. Florida has been warning us quietly for years, not with headlines, but with streets. Sunny day flooding, saltwater intrusion into drinking supplies, storm surge pushing further inland every decade. Miami already has Miami already pumps water back into the ocean during floods because there's nowhere else for it to go. That should terrify us. Florida isn't just dealing with hurricanes, Florida is dealing with the future of coastal America. Rising seas, overwhelmed drainage, fresh water threatened by salt. This isn't a Florida problem. Florida is showing us what happens when water wins and systems don't exist. So when I say water in America is no longer a regional issue, I mean this. California burned, Texas drowned, Florida is being written by water. Different disasters, same root cause. No national water system, no ability to move water where it's needed, no backbone. And that's why right now, as you're watching the country burn, one part of the country is drowning while another part is burning. And both are happening on a water planet that refuses to organize itself. It's a national systems failure. Water in the United States is not scarce, it's misplaced. We live on a water planet. We sit next to two oceans, and yet towns are running out of water. Farmers are going bankrupt. Wildfire seasons are longer. Floods are deadlier, and insurance are pulling out entire states. That's not nature's fault. That's planning failure. That's a planning failure. Here's the strategic reality. Every major weather system hits the coast first. Hurricanes, storm surge, atmospheric rivers, sea level rise, floodwaters. So if we're serious about water, flood control, fire prevention, and energy resilience, the coast isn't optional. It's step one. That's why the offshore water and power platform exists. When people hear the words offshore platform, they immediately picture an oil rig. That's not what this is. I want you to imagine something entirely different. At the center, its primary mission, producing fresh water directly from the ocean. Think about that. Every gallon produced offshore is another gallon that doesn't have to come from shrinking rivers, depleted aquifers, or reservoirs already under tremendous pressure. We're not competing for yesterday's water anymore. We're creating tomorrow's. Picture a massive floating offshore structure designed from the ground up using next generation metamaterials, advanced composite materials that are lightweight, corrosion resistant, incredibly strong, and specifically engineered to survive one of the harshest environments on Earth, the open ocean. At its center is a large cylindrical core. I chose a cylindrical shape because nature already has taught us that curved surfaces handle moving water better than flat ones. Instead of fighting waves, the structure encourages water to flow around it, reducing stress while improving stability. Think of that central core as the heart of the entire facility. Everything begins here. Radiating outward from this center are 8 massive structural arms, almost like legs of a crab. Each arm extends hundreds of feet from the center before connecting to one of 8 enormous fin-shaped shield walls surrounding the platform. These fins are unlike anything we build today. Imagine giant shark fins rising from the ocean. They're wide, powerful beneath the surface, gradually narrowing towards the top. But these aren't simply walls. They're intelligent engineering systems. Each fin is independently buoyant and capable of controlled movement. During normal conditions, they float at their standard operating height, where their shape naturally redirects ocean currents and wave energy into controlled flow paths that can be harvested for electricity. When storms approach, artificial intelligence continuously monitors wave height, current velocity, and weather conditions. The fins automatically rise higher out of the water, exposing more of their wider lower section. The wider profile becomes a giant wave breaker. Instead of allowing waves to clam directly into the platform, they're redirected, dispersed, and weakened long before they reach the center structure. In other words, the very walls protecting the platform also producing energy. Protection and power generation become the same system. That's what I call innovation consolidation. One structure performing multiple critical jobs simultaneously instead of building separate systems for every problem. Connecting each shield wall back to the central core are massive conical processing columns. These aren't just supports. These are the engines of the entire platform. Each processing column contains multiple freshwater purification chambers operating in sequence. Rather than relying on a single desalination technology, each chamber performs a different stage of purification. One stage may use advanced electrochemical separation, another may use high frequency vibration or ultrasonic technologies, another may employ vortex assisted thermal separation. Future chambers can incorporate entirely new technologies as they emerge. The philosophy is simple: never become dependent on one method. Continuously improve, continuously evolve. Every chamber is designed so new purification technologies can be added without rebuilding the entire platform. The platform becomes a living laboratory for freshwater innovation. Every drop of water does multiple jobs. Nothing moves through this platform only once. As seawaters enter the system, every stage is designed to recover value. Pressure becomes energy. Flow becomes electricity. Temperature difference becomes usable heat. Ocean currents become mechanical power. Wave motion becomes electricity. Solar arrays across the platform generate additional power throughout the day. Wind flowing around the shield fins is funneled into natural acceleration zones where additional turbines can harvest energy. Even the buoyancy of the floating platform itself becomes another source of recoverable energy as the structure gently rises and falls with the ocean. Instead of fighting nature, the platform works with it. The floating foundation. Unlike unconventional offshore structures that depend on massive piles driven into the seabed, this concept is built around controlled buoyancy. The entire platform floats, not freely, stabilized. Large anchoring systems and deep ocean mooring cables hold the platform precisely in position while still allowing controlled vertical movement with changes, tides, and wave action. Advanced stabilization technologies, similar in philosophy to those used in magnetic transportation systems and offshore dynamic positioning, work continuously to keep the central platform remarkably stable even while the surrounding ocean remains in motion. The ocean moves, the platform adapts. The pipeline to the mainland. Once fresh water is produced, it doesn't simply disappear into a pipeline. The pipeline itself becomes another piece of national infrastructure. Running down the center is the freshwater transmission line. On both sides of that pipeline sit massive multi-story indoor vertical farming facility. Fresh water feeds the farms. Solar panels covering the agricultural structures generate electricity. Controlled environment agriculture produce food year-round, regardless of drought, heat, or change in climate. The farming structure also protects the pipeline while transforming what would normally be unused infrastructure into productive economic space. This isn't just a water corridor. It's a food corridor now, an energy corridor now, a research corridor, an employment corridor, built for more than water. Although freshwater production is its primary mission, the platform is intentionally designed to support many additional roles. It can serve as an oceanographic research station, a marine biology laboratory, an offshore renewable energy demonstration facility, an AI controlled infrastructure research center, a disaster response staging area, a search and rescue hub, a tourist destination, a university engineering research campus, a national innovation center where new water for purification technologies are continuously developed, tested, and improved. One platform is doing all this. Many missions. Now follow the large platform leaving. Now follow the large pipeline leaving the platform. Fresh water doesn't help anyone if it stays offshore. This pipeline carries fresh water inland, but it doesn't stop there. The same corridor can carry renewable power, communications infrastructure, and future utility systems wrapped around proportions of that pipeline Our indoor agriculture facilities that use fresh water are already being transported to grow food close to the communities it serves. Instead of building separate systems for water, food, energy, and communications, we begin building one intelligent corridor capable of supporting all of them. Excuse me. That's the future I see. Not one project solving one problem, one system solving many. Each offshore platform becomes the first node of what I call the national spine, a unified infrastructure system that moves fresh water, generates clean energy, supports food production, strengthens transportation, creates new technical careers, and builds long term national resilience. Instead of treating water, energy, agriculture, transportation, and emergency preparedness as a separate problems, this platform brings them together into one integrated system. That's the philosophy behind every part of this design. Don't build five separate systems. Build one intelligence system that performs five jobs exceptionally well. Because the future won't belong to infrastructure that solves one problem. It will belong to infrastructure that solves many problems at once. And that's exactly what this platform is designed to do. Water, energy, protection, all in one structure. That's not futuristic, that's efficient. Let's talk about floods real quick because we keep pretending they're unpredictable. They're not. We have 100 years of flood data. We know where rivers overflow. We know which coastline cities flood. We know which inland basins take the hit. What we don't have is a system to move water once it arrives. That's where offshore platform changes the game. Instead of floodwater overwhelming cities like Houston, Tampa, Miami, New Orleans, or coastal Carolina communities, that water is captured, processed, redirected, and moved inland to places that don't have water or to inland water reservoirs. Floodwater doesn't destroy anymore. It feeds the system. Excess coastal water moves through hardened pipelines to drought-stricken farmland, inland reservoirs, fire suppression corridors, underground storage zones. This is not reaction. This is water mastery. And let's talk about fire. California, Oregon, Washington, Arizona. Every year it's the same cycle. It's happening right now. Right now. Fire season gets longer. Fire behavior gets more extreme. Firefighters run out of water access. That is totally unacceptable. I can't even imagine owning my house and watching it burn right now in Washington right now. I'm looking at these families look at their houses being burned. Come on now. It doesn't have to be this way. I created something called the Integrated Wildfire Defense Corridor, which links up to my spine system, you know. And it changes the mission from reacting to disasters to preparing for them, guys. Here's how it works. The offshore water platforms feed water inland through the spine pipeline network, where dedicated fire defense corridors branch into high-risk forests and wildlands. These corridors become permanent infrastructures, moving, storing, pressurizing, and delivering water exactly where it is most likely to be needed. Think about the current power line corridors already running across this country. The basic infrastructure idea is already familiar. Tall structures, long corridors, fixed routes, and access across large stretches of land. But right now, most of the infrastructure serves only one purpose. My vision takes that same basic concept and evolves it in something multi-use. Instead of a corridor that only carries electricity, imagine a hardened fire defense corridor that carries water, power, sensors, communication, and response capabilities all in one structure. Along that corridor, industrial scale mobile water cannon platforms can move into position. While autonomous drones extend suppression deep into terrain firefighters may not be able to reach quickly. Guided by an AI fire command center, the system no longer operates as a scattered equipment reacting after the fact. It becomes one coordinated network, attacking fire from the ground, from the air, and from prepared suppression corridors designed to slow, divide, and contain fire before it becomes uncontrollable. Guys, this is more than firefighting. It is wildfire management. It protects firefighters before they arrive. It protects communities before evacuation becomes necessary. It protects forests before they become fuel. Most importantly, it transformed wildfire response from a race against time into a system built on preparation, coordination, and resilience. Instead of asking, how do we fight the next wildfire? We begin asking, how do we prevent the next catastrophe? This is the purpose of the Integrated Wildfire Defense Corridor. That alone saves lives, homes, forests, and billions in losses. The Integrated Wildfire Defense Corridor transformed firefighting from a reactive emergency response into a permanent, AI-assisted national defense system designed to detect, contain, and suppress wildfires before they become catastrophic. Key system capabilities. It pressurizes freshwater pipeline network. Dedicated freshwater pipelines connect to the spine infrastructure, continuously move water inland from offshore freshwater platforms, ensuring a reliable water supply even during prolonged fire events. Industrial mobile water cannon platforms. These are building size, rail guided suppression units, travel freely along the fire corridor, drawing water directly from the pressurized pipeline. Each platform is equipped with high volume, long range water cannons capable of delivering continuous suppression over large areas while repositioning as fire conditions change. Autonomous fire suppression zones. This is a new vision for me that I created. Something people need to get. This is a good positive for drones. Heavy lift firefighting drones capable of carrying up to 1,000 gallons of water independently. This is important. When connected to the corridor through flexible supply hoses, they can operate continuously without returning to refill. So they can operate tethered or untethered. When untethered, they carry up to 1,000 gallons. When tethered, they can just water just keeps flowing through them. The tethered hose allows the drone to deploy up to 1 mile from the corridor while maintaining an uninterrupted water supply, enabling precision suppression deep inside inaccessible terrain. Boy, rapid mobility corridor. The guided rail system allows mobile suppression platforms to move quickly in either direction along the corridor, concentrating firefighting resources wherever fire behavior becomes the most aggressive. And then a distributed fire suppression ports. High capacity water accessing points are positioned at regular intervals throughout the corridor, allowing firefighters, aircraft, drones, and emergency response teams immediate access to pressurized fresh water. AI coordinated command system. Artificial intelligence continuously integrates satellite imagery, weather data, wind conditions, thermal energy, ground sensors, drone reconnaissance, and firefighter reports to predict fire movement, prioritize suppression efforts to dispatch resources, and coordinate all mobile assets in real time. Guys, this is firefighting on steroids. I'm serious. What I'm talking about is getting at the fires before the fires try to get at us. Autonomous early detection network, AI powered cameras, infrared sensors, smoke detection systems, and drone patrols identify ignition points during their earliest stages, allowing rapid intervention before fires grow into major incidents. What I envision here, you always see these little cell phone towers around here. Imagine a thinner tower that's efficient but these towers are just sensors located all throughout the city, throughout the region, but they're connected to where the fires are heat and everything is managed. And guys, we got to do this now. Containment through prepared infrastructure. Instead of chasing fires after they spread, the corridor creates predetermined defensive zones where suppression assets, water resources, and response teams are already positioned, dramatically reducing response times. Now, let me take this one step further because this is where the thinking has to evolve. In my vision, California specifically, the coast becomes the anchor. I envision 3 offshore water platforms positioned along California coastline, feeding hardened pipelines inline. If you do this right, strategically, you don't just move water, you partition the landscape. These pipelines effectively slice the state into managed fire zones, not walls, not barriers, but controlled water fed corridors. And along each one of these pipelines runs a unirail system, not passenger rail, but a dedicated infrastructure rail designed to serve the system itself. That changes everything. because now you're not limited to static hydrants. Along these unirail corridors, like I mentioned before, deploy large industrial mobile water platforms, units that move water along the pipeline, drawing directly from pressurized freshwater source coming straight from the ocean. I don't know how else to tell you. This is probably the smartest thing I've ever heard. Comments so far to just the pictures that I've been getting are varied. You're dreaming. This will never happen. This is too much. Or this is Star Wars-ish. All this kind of stuff. Think small, get small. Think little, be little. No, this is everything I'm telling you right now is happening right now in some state. The high pressure buildings is happening in cities right now. The water corridors are happening in cities right now. We're just not doing it because there's no profit involved in it. Like I said, this isn't chasing that fires after they explode. This is pre-positioned fire control enabled by infrastructure. You're no longer reacting to wildfires. You're containing them by design. And let me be clear about something. I'm not putting pipelines across California and walking away. That's how disasters happen. These corridors require continuous maintenance, vegetation control, sensor monitoring, rapid response capability. That's why along these same pipelines, because you now have water, you have power and access, you build small, resilient communities to manage long parts of this pipeline. Communities using recycled plastic, fire-resistant housing, positioned to maintain the pipeline, manage the unirail system, control vegetation growth, operate fire response asset, serve as early warning and response hubs. These are not camps. These are temporary. These are not temporary crews. These are permanent infrastructure stewardship communities. People whose jobs is to protect the system that protects the state. So now instead of fires running until weather changes, firefighters fighting terrain instead of fire, entire regions burning controllably, you get pre-planned fire partitions, water exactly where it's needed, mobile suppression capability, continuous maintenance, human presence with mission. This is futuristic, but it's not science fiction. It's infrastructure thinking instead of emergency thinking. And if California wants to stop burning every year, Washington, any country in this world wants to stop burning, this is the scale of thinking it needs to require. And here's the part that people consistently miss. This offshore water system isn't just about water. It's also a power plant. I told you this earlier, but every time I talk about water, and not in theory, not someday, not experimentally. Other countries are already doing this. Let's be honest about where America stands. The United Kingdom, specifically Scotland, is already operating the Orbital O2, the most powerful tidal turbine in the world. 2 megawatts floating offshore, feeding power directly into the national grid. Japan is harnessing the deep ocean Kuroshio current using underwater turbines that generate continuous 24/7 power, unaffected by surface weather. South Korea operates the largest tidal power station on the earth at Suwa Lake, producing 254 megawatts. Not a test project, but a working national asset. France has been wanting tidal power since 1966 at the Rance facility. Canada is actively deploying tidal turbines in the Bay of Fundy, one of the most powerful tidal zones on the planet. So when I talk about offshore energy like it's futuristic, we're not leading. We're behind the curve. Now let's break this down to what actually makes sense. Every gallon of water that moves through this system produces energy. Not just one way, but multiple ways. Flow turbines inside the pipeline generates electricity as it moves inland. Tidal and current turbines harvest constant ocean movement. Wave energy recovers captures surface motion. Thermal differentials use temperature differences between deep surface water. Solar is integrated across the tops of offshore platforms and along pipeline corridors. And that solar piece matters because this system isn't isolated in the ocean. The pipeline coming ashore supports indoor farming, maintenance hubs, and technical communities, all of which benefit from distributed solar generation running in parallel with water-based power. This is a layer of energy system, not a single bet. And here's the elegant part. The power generated runs the desalination, powers the pumps, feeds regional grids, supports inland communities, stabilizes energy supply during disasters. So you get a closed loop. Water generates power, power moves water. The loop is everything because it means the system does not drain taxpayers forever. It sustains itself. Over time, it pays for itself the way real infrastructure is supposed to. And this is where I want to pause, not answer, but ask something seriously. Why do we act like infrastructure only moves forward if a corporation can squeeze profit out of it? When did we decide that national survival systems, water, energy, food, only deserve investment if someone can monetize them first? Other countries didn't wait for that logic. They built because the nation needed it. So the question isn't whether this works. The question is whether the technology exists. The question isn't whether the technology exists. The question isn't whether we can afford it. The real question is, can we move forward as a country without demanding that everything be profit driven first? Because here's the reality. Energy demand is rising, water scarcity is accelerating, climate volatility is increasing, our grid is fragile, our response systems are reactive, wildfires are burning us as we speak. And meanwhile, the technology to stable all this is already in use. Not just here. This isn't innovation anymore. This is catch up. And the longer we wait, the more expensive inaction becomes. Now look at the pipeline itself. If you're already building a hardened, protected coast to inland corridor, why waste the space? That's why along the pipeline foundation, we integrate indoor farming facilities, technical maintenance hubs. I keep saying the same thing over just to get you to understand this is more than just water. This is about building an infrastructure and a facility that makes sense for everybody. We got people sitting around not working, needing jobs. We're talking about AI is taking our jobs. These are jobs that some of these jobs AI can't do. Maintenance of the infrastructures can't be done by AI. AI can manage what works, but it can't take care of it. AI can't go through the woods and cut the forest. So come on. The system creates an entirely new workforce category, water technicians, offshore platform engineers, pipeline PMCS crews, indoor farming specialists, energy system operators, emergency response teams, automation and robotics technicians, controlled environment agriculture systems operator, quality assurance and food safety technicians, agricultural data analysis, plant science technicians, junior horticulturists, harvest and packaging specialists. These are real careers, not gig work. This is infrastructure stewardship, a civilian counterpart to military readiness. The system is maintained the same way the military maintains aircraft, armor, and ships, continuous inspection, preventive maintenance, no waiting for failure. The mindset alone is revolutionary for civilian infrastructure. Right now, I'm starting with the offshore piece so you can see the entry point. But make no mistake, this is the beginning of something much larger. The national spine, I say it again, the national spine is water infrastructure, energy infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, high-speed rail infrastructure, workforce communities, the new way of thinking about national resilience. And after that, I'm going to talk about the evolution, the grassroots movement that supports building a system like this for people, by the people, without waiting for permission. This is where it starts. I'm laying it out step by step because once you see the whole picture, you can't unsee it. We don't guess anymore. We don't patch vibes. We don't pass the hat first and hope it works later. We build the plan first. We understand the cost. Only then, we go raise money for the plan. And yes, sometimes it looks like a party. Sometimes it looks like an event. Sometimes it looks like collective enthusiasm around something people can actually see and understand. That's not reckless. That's responsible. And this is where I need you to be very clear because people love to misunderstand this part. I'm not anti-corporation. I'm not anti-profit. Corporations should make money. What I'm against is a system where 300% profit becomes normal, while communities collapse and basic survival systems remain broken. This is the difference between healthy profit and an extraction. This is where corporations become valuable again, not by deciding vision, but by executing the will of the people. We do the hard work up front, the planning, the design, the cost discipline, the public accountability. Corporations then do what they're good at, building, scaling, executing, and manufacturing. They still profit but failing. They still win but with limits. And the public wins first. That's the shift. This isn't about squeezing corporations out. It's about putting back at the center where they were always supposed to be. For decades, we've tried to fix broken systems by patching them from the inside. We look for solutions that fit neatly inside frameworks that were never designed for people in the first place. And every time we do that, we get the same result. Corporations out front, people reacting from behind. That's not because corporations are evil. It's because the current framework is built for them. Anything we try to do inside that framework, no matter how well intended, will always default back to the same outcome. The structure decides the winner before the conversation even starts. What I'm talking about is not a patch. It's not a workaround. It's not another solution that quietly reinforces what already isn't working. I'm talking about transforming the framework itself, not tearing things down in anger, but evolving past what no longer serves us. We've lived long enough inside this system to know what it does well, and more importantly, what it leaves behind. We know what doesn't work for the regular people. We know what's missing, and pretending otherwise is no longer an option. This is about building something new, designing from the ground up with people in front, not as an afterthought, not as a talking point, but as a primary consideration. In that system, the plans don't exist to maximize margin, they exist to solve problems. Once those problems are solved, once the structure is sound, fair, and accountable, then yes, business can participate, corporations can innovate, they can execute, they can earn, but they don't decide the direction. We do. That's the shift. This isn't anti-business, it's pro-people. It's not about eliminating profit, it's about putting purpose ahead of extraction. And that's what the evolution looks like. Not fighting what exists, but outgrowing it with something better, something more honest, something built for the reality we're living in now. That's what I'm really about. Not fixing what's broken just enough to survive another cycle, but building something strong enough that people finally come first by design. Why this can't wait? Because this needs to happen yesterday. Water levels are rising, freshwater inland is disappearing, disasters are accelerating. We either harvest our greatest natural resource intelligently or keep paying for failure forever. And this time, that choice doesn't belong to politicians. It belongs to the people willing to think, plan, and build together. That's what this is. We don't live on a dry planet. And I'm going to close this right now. And I thank you if you've been with me this long, I thank you for listening, guys. I really do. We don't live on a dry planet. We live on a water planet. The tragedy isn't scarcity. The tragedy is inaction. Now, let me say this plainly as we close. There's a lot of doom and gloom right now. Part of what that is because we're seeing more of any generation in history has ever seen. Information is instant. Disasters are live streamed. Failure is broadcast in real time. We're exposed to the worst of humanity and the consequences of bad decisions every single day, right in our pockets. That doesn't necessarily mean the world is getting worse. It means we're finally seeing what's always been there. And what we're seeing is how out of reach touch leadership has become, not just in America, but globally. There's no unifying effort anymore. There's no shared direction, just motion without purpose. In America, we bought into the idea that if you worked harder, work, everything else will take care of itself. We send our kids to school, we go to work, we pay our bills, and we assume someone else is thinking about the big things, water, infrastructure, survival, the future. That's why we put leaders in place. But here's the truth we need to face. That's not happening anymore. So now we're at a crossroads. We can sit back and say, this is just a phase. Things will eventually get better. Or you can look around and say, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't look right. We should be further along with it than this. And that's where I'm at. And this ain't no damn label. Liberal, communist, human. It's just so stupid. Liberal, communist. Whatever works for the people. Because we should be. I come from the old school way of thinking. You live your life to improve things. You don't live your life to stay stuck on stupid. Quote that. And right now, too much of the world is stuck on systems that don't work, on frameworks that failed us, on habits that no longer serve people. I'm not here to complain. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm here because I have a plan. And in a world full of no plans, a real plan matters. Because we can either intelligently harvest our greatest natural resource, or we can keep doing what we've been doing. Nothing. Keep paying for failure, keep paying for disasters after they happen, keep paying to rebuild what never should have been allowed to collapse in the first place, generation after generation. And I think that it's fair to ask this out loud now. Is that what we're actually comfortable with? Are we comfortable living in a system where the only time we act is after damage is done? Where the only thing that seems to register is pain, loss, and a bill? Because that's the pattern. We don't invest in prevention. We don't demand planning. We don't stay engaged. We just pay and complain and pay for the flood. We pay for the fire. We pay for the storm. We pay for the failure. And then we do it again. And at some point, that's not bad luck. That's choice. That's stupid. We'll call it what it is. A choice to stay disconnected from the systems we live under. A choice to outsource responsibility entirely to leadership. And then act surprised when leadership fails. So the real question isn't whether disaster will keep happening. The real question is whether we're content being a society that only understands the consequences after the damage and keeps footing the bill for the same avoidable failures over and over and over because we refuse to demand something better. That's the fork in the road we're at right now. We either start thinking ahead, planning ahead, and participate in the systems that govern our survival, or more importantly, put our mouths, you know, start writing the check that our behinds can't cash. We keep saying we concerned about our kids. We concerned about our future. If you're looking around, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. Or we accept a future we're paying for preventable failures just the way it is. And I refuse to believe that this is the best we can do. Building systems that people put first isn't dangerous. It's overdue, guys. Designing solutions that actually match the reality we're living in isn't idealistic. It's necessary. So this is where talk ends. And this is where action begins. What comes next? This doesn't start with money. It doesn't start with government. It starts with people deciding to engage. We are in the planning and design phase right now. That phase costs almost nothing except time, thinking, and commitment. That's the advantage of the world we live in today. So here's how we can step in. Technical volunteers step forward. Organize your state. Funding without waiting. We build it with entertainment. When I say throw parties, I don't mean one concert. I mean full day, multi-venue, multi-genre events that move from city to city, the same way major festivals already do. Think of it like this: one city, several days, multiple venues, different genres, one shared purpose. A genre for older crowds, a genre for young crowds, sports exhibition, boxing and combat sports, celebrity appearance, film, culture, art experience. Everybody has something they want to see. Everybody has a reason to show up. And when people show up, the funding happens. Here's the critical difference between this and how things actually go. We don't raise money first and hope the plan follows. We don't hide costs. We don't lose track of where the money goes. We design the project first. We know the cost up front. We tell people exactly where their ticket funding is going. That changes everything. Now people aren't just attending an event, they're building something together. And because this engine it can move city to city, it doesn't rely on one donor, one state, or one moment. It scales. And this is how we stay independent. This is how we stay free. When funding comes from people enjoying themselves openly, voluntarily, and transparently, the project stays accountable to people, not politics. Corporations can participate, sponsors can support, artists can profit fairly, but no one owns the mission. That's the line. Not everyone's an engineer, and that's fine. Additional talent across the board, primarily entertainment, becomes infrastructure. I need all of you, musicians, athletes, boxing, because if we want to make money to change this world, we're going to have to do it. My plan is to do it the right way and do it through entertainment. That's the bottom line, people. Places like Mardi Gras, Essence festivals, all these Wild Man, Burning Man, they make millions of dollars every year to generate people's pockets. The bottom line, entertainment already moves money. Entertainment already moves people. Entertainment moves culture. I'm just aiming it deliberately at building water systems, building energy systems and infrastructure that should have existed decades ago. And you know what? We're going to have a good time doing it. Movements don't fail because of lack of ideas. They fail because people assume someone else will carry it. Don't be that someone, guys. Don't be that someone. Because this is just the beginning. I've already released my spine podcast. Listen to it. I've already released my AI generated concepts. I've already released the actual documents that talk about everything. So I need this to get into leadership hands now. I need you to tell them, hey, this is the plan. I need you to talk. I need to get these water platforms on the agenda on every state right now, especially those coastal states, Texas, the Carolinas, Florida, California. I need these coastal water platforms on the agenda now. And then from there, I need people to sign up and let's start talking about planning these events in your cities so we can start getting this agenda to build these platforms now. We can't wait. Let's go. You know, in final word, guys, I don't spend much time talking about what the government should do for us anymore. I'm focused on what we do first. We put the plans together, we build the vision, we show the cost, we generate the will. Then leadership has something to respond to because right now they seem to be busy with other concerns. So we'll do the planning. And once the plan exists, the environment starts to change little by little, exactly the way it always has when people stop waiting and start building. This is how we move, guys. This is the evolution. Elevate and evolve. I want to thank you all for listening to me. I have music out now on all major music streams. I have plans out. Guys, I'm trying to do it all to get the message out to all of you. Join the evolution. This is the only thing we should be doing right now. Thank you.
Now that you know the plan, it's time to stand. Join the evolution for the solution. For the evolution for the solution. A vision, no wishing. Let's spread integrity through the land by giving a helping hand. Pass the word and embrace the vision. A new America, a new mission. Join the evolution, 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 for the solution. Keep the light, keep the fire, America we inspire. We got to fight, fight, fight for our rights day and night. For the solution, join the evolution for the solution, join the evolution for the solution. Join the evolution, join the evolution, join the evolution. A vision. No.